It's the most wonderful time of the year. I'm talking about Ubuntu release date. And unlike Christmas, Ubuntu release date comes twice a year. We're still a few hours away from the big 2004 releases, but I went ahead and downloaded the latest ISOs for 6 flavors of Ubuntu 2004 Focal Fossa. I pulled down the latest ISO for Ubuntu, Mainline Ubuntu, and Kubuntu, Xubuntu, Lubuntu, Ubuntu Budgie, and Ubuntu Monta, and I'm going to give a quick preview of these 6 flavors of 2004 Focal Fossa. The first one I'm going to take a look at, of course, is Mainline Ubuntu. Now, because this is an LTS release, Ubuntu 2004 will be supported for up to 5 years if you choose to run it that long. You have the famous Ubiquity installer that Ubuntu uses. It's a very easy to use installer. You have the choice between normal installation and a minimal installation. The minimal installation comes with just a bare bones install. It has a web browser and a few other basic utilities, but it's not going to have, games or your office suites or a bunch of multimedia stuff. The normal installation is probably what most people are going to want. You also have the options to download updates while installing Ubuntu and installing third-party Wi-Fi drivers, video drivers, multimedia codecs. You really want to tick that option on. It will make your Ubuntu experience much more pleasant if you go ahead and install those drivers and codecs. And then if I click continue here, one of the interesting features of Ubuntu 2004 is when you get to the installation type page and you choose erase disk and install Ubuntu. If you go to advanced features, you do have this experimental option where you can erase the disk and use ZFS for your file system. And that's what I'm going to do. After installation, Ubuntu 2004 presents you with an easy-to-use tool that connects your online accounts, including your Ubuntu single sign-on accounts, certain Google accounts, your Nextcloud if you have one, and various Microsoft accounts. You're also presented with a screen where you can install additional software, some very popular programs here, including some free and open source programs like GIMP and some proprietary software such as Skype and Sublime Text. If you open up the Appearance program here inside Ubuntu 2004, you will notice that you now have some additional options as far as theming. You have your standard theme here, but you also have a new dark mode theme. And when it's enabled, you will see that it is really quite attractive dark theme. You have some beautiful gray icons with some aubergine hinting around it. I think this new theming that they are doing in Ubuntu 2004 is probably the most gorgeous desktop theme that the Ubuntu team has ever put out. The GTK theme looks great. The icon set, quite frankly, is amazing. I'm going to right click on the desktop and choose change background, and I'm going to choose a different background image here. And then I'm going to go to the top and choose to lock the screen, and watch what happens with the screen lock. You noticed it actually blurs your wallpaper now. How cool is that? One interesting feature of Ubuntu 2004 is the new version of GNOME that it is using. It is using GNOME version 3.36.1, and you will notice a definite performance improvement in using GNOME 3.36 compared to previous versions of GNOME. If we click on the Ubuntu Software Center, and we wait for the software catalog to be downloaded, I'm assuming it is syncing some repositories here. Now that it is loaded, you can look around through the various categories of software and explore. You can check what programs are installed already on your system. You can update your system. If I click on the menu here and go to About Ubuntu Software, you will see that this is Ubuntu Software 3.36.1. It's actually the GNOME Software Center that they have repurposed. Looks like we do have an update available if I wanted to take it, and that is to the Snap Store. I'll decline the update for the time being. If I do a Control-Alt-T to bring up a terminal here in Ubuntu, and let me zoom in a little bit, the first thing I want to do is do a uname space -R. And we are running kernel version 5.4. If I do a snap list here in the terminal, we will get everything that has been installed as a snap pack listed out. It looks like the only thing that's really here other than some core stuff is the Snap Store, of course, is a snap pack itself. If I grab this window and drag it to the left here, you will see we do have some grid snapping available here in GNOME. Really nice effect. If I dragged it toward the top of the screen, it should, of course, make the window full screen. Those are nice features that I think most people expect in modern desktop environments. I think with the option to install ZFS as your file system, I think with this gorgeous new Yaru theme and the dark mode and just everything that they've done to help improve the speed of GNOME, Ubuntu 20.04 may be the best version of Ubuntu to date. The next flavor I want to take a look at is Kubuntu 20.04. Now Kubuntu, the install process is very similar to mainline Ubuntu, but one thing that is missing from the Kubuntu install was there was no ZFS option in the graphical installer. It was just your standard extend for file system and LVM options. I open the menu and type about and launch system information. You will see we are using KDE Plasma version 5.18.4 and the KDE Frameworks version is 5.68. Probably the biggest feature for this new release of Kubuntu includes the emoji selector. So me personally, I have no use for emojis at all. I just think they really have no business in anything, whether it be emails, chat messaging, but I do realize I am a bit of an old school Luddite, and for most people, especially the younger generation, it's all about the emojis. The fact that you have this emoji selector tool now built into Kubuntu is actually a really cool feature. I'm actually impressed that they include something like that. I think the Kubuntu devs kind of get it. I think they're really clued in to what the public really wants these days. One thing that I wanted to check out with the latest version of Kubuntu is what do GTK apps look like inside Kubuntu, because sometimes GTK apps are a second-class citizen inside a KDE distro, and I installed a GTK music player that I know of called Quad-Labet. And I just wanted to see how the theming, and you know what, the theming looks perfect. It looks like it is a native KDE Plasma application. It looks just as good as the default KDE music player that is in here, which is Elisa. I've never actually used Elisa. I'm sure it's a fine music player, but again, I installed Quad-Labet mainly just to see if there was any variation between the native KDE app and a GTK-based app. And you know what, the theming looks perfect. We go back to the menu system and do a quick search for software. You will see we have two different software centers. We have the Discover Software Center. This is actually the main KDE software center. It's your graphical kind of software store app center, if you will, where you can view screenshots and read reviews and of course search if you know exactly what you're searching for, or you can search by category. It breaks everything down by category. The other software center that was here was Muon. And Muon is really more of like a Synaptic package manager. There are no screenshots, nothing graphical. It is basically the Plasma version of the old Synaptic package manager. Those of you that are familiar with Debian or Ubuntu-based distros probably know what the Synaptic package manager is. And while I have the Muon package manager open, I'm going to go to settings here and I'm going to configure our software sources. Of course, we have to enter our sudo password. And the reason I'm doing this is because there are some interesting things to take a look at here. For example, if you go into updates, I don't know if most people know this, and this is a standard tool, by the way. It's probably included in all the versions of Ubuntu that I'm taking a look at today, the software sources utility. But you can actually set Ubuntu, or in this case Kubuntu, to check for updates on a daily basis, every 2 days, weekly, every 2 weeks, or you can turn it off to where it never checks for updates on its own. You just take care of the updates yourself when you feel like it. For me personally, that's probably what I would do, because I hate getting those notifications that there's a new update. You know what, I'll update myself every few days. Another interesting portion of this is this option right here, show new distribution releases. So the next version of Kubuntu past 20.04, of course, will be 2010 this October. Now, that will be a normal release. So if you click normal releases here, when Ubuntu 2010 comes out, you will be prompted to update to that new version of Kubuntu once it's released. You could change this to long-term support releases only, because I think most people that do run Ubuntu, especially mainline Ubuntu, probably stick to long-term support releases. So I don't want to be prompted to update to 2010 from 2004. I'm running 2004. The next time I get prompted to do a distribution upgrade will be 22.04, the next LTS release. And if you don't ever want to be prompted to upgrade to the latest version of Ubuntu, you could always just click Never here as well. Also in the Software Sources tool, you do have the option of doing some additional drivers, especially if you didn't click Install the third-party drivers during the installation process. This is where you would go about getting that since you didn't do it in the installer. You're going to right-click on the desktop and choose Configure Desktop, and you have your standard KDE wallpaper pack here. Nothing really new to see with the wallpapers. One interesting feature with KDE Plasma though is that you can change the wallpaper type. Instead of doing an image, you could go down here and choose Picture of the Day. And then you need to go through the drop-down menu here and choose the provider of those images for your picture of the day. Me personally, I can tell you Bing has some pretty amazing images. If you've ever done like the daily Bing images on the Bing search engine, just click Apply. And that is the Bing image of the day. Tomorrow, you will get a different wallpaper from Bing. Some other really cool stuff here. Of course, you got NOAA, which is the weather administration. You also have NASA in here. Bing is probably the best one for wallpapers, more traditional kind of nature, landscape photos. Also, Unsplash wallpapers here is a nice wallpaper pack. If I apply that, we'll go to the Unsplash wallpaper of the day. Yeah, that's actually very nice. The next Ubuntu flavor I want to briefly take a look at is Xubuntu 20.04. Now, Xubuntu uses the lightweight, minimal XFCE desktop environment. One thing to note with XFCE, not much ever changes with XFCE. You rarely get a new version of XFCE, and rarely do you have any major changes to XFCE. So as far as the look and feel of the desktop, if you've ever used Xubuntu, it's a very plain, vanilla kind of XFCE desktop. They don't spend a whole lot of effort trying to theme this thing and make it look all flashy and whiz-bangy. One interesting thing about the installer, unlike Kubuntu, Xubuntu did have a ZFS option in the installer, so that's very nice. Other than that, the biggest change that these guys are touting is they did work on a new dark theme inside Xubuntu. So if I do a search for appearance, if I can spell it, and I launch this, you will see we have some different themes here. And let me launch a file manager so we can actually see the themes change. So we have the Graybird theme here installed by default. If you wanted to, you could change over to the Graybird dark theme, and you know, it's a okay dark theme. It's nowhere near as polished and sharp looking as the Ubuntu dark theme, that Yaru theme that they were using. You also have the Edwata dark theme here installed as an option as well. Either one would probably work for me. You do have the option of changing the icon sets. There's a few different icon sets here. Edwata, the elementary icon set is here. The Humanity, the traditional Ubuntu orange icon set, is also installed on the system. Other than that, it looks like traditional XFCE, a very plain kind of panel and menu system. If you right-click on the panel, you could actually go into the panel preferences here, and you could adjust whether the panel is at the top or the bottom of the screen. You could also add and remove various widgets from the panel. If you right-click on the desktop, you get a right-click applications kind of menu. This is sort of like a right-click OpenBox menu if you've ever used OpenBox. You go to desktop settings in the right-click menu. Of course, you have your wallpapers, and it looks like a standard XFCE wallpaper pack. Actually, some pretty nice kind of abstract art wallpapers. These are actually pretty nifty wallpapers. I quite like these. They're very minimal and not terribly busy, and that's kind of what I appreciate out of a good wallpaper. I really like that photograph there. And now I'll briefly take a look at Lubuntu 20.04. Lubuntu 20.04 is interesting because this is the first LTS release of Lubuntu that will include the LXQt desktop environment. Before, Lubuntu was using the LXDE desktop environment, but they have since moved to the new LXQt DE. The installer for Lubuntu is similar to all the other Ubuntu flavors, except I did notice they were using the Calamares installer instead of the traditional Ubiquity installer that most Ubuntu flavors used. And I also noticed that Lubuntu, like Kubuntu, did not offer ZFS as an option in the graphical installer. One thing we should mention about Lubuntu 20.04 too is that this is the first LTS of Lubuntu that is 64-bit only. In previous versions, there were 32-bit options, but since Mainline Ubuntu dropped 32-bit support, Lubuntu has followed suit and is now strictly 64-bit only. When you first log into Lubuntu, I will say that unlike some of the other Ubuntu flavors, except for Mainline Ubuntu, those guys spent a ton of time on theming and polishing and making their distribution look very professional. Lubuntu has really put a lot of effort in theming and just making a really polished product here. Just everything about this just looks really professional and well put together. From the GTK theme to the icon set to the wallpaper, it's just really a gorgeous desktop. If I go into the menu system here and go to System Tools and we look for our software centers, just like Kubuntu, we have two software centers and we have the same two. We have, of course, Discover, which is your traditional KDE software center. And then we also have the Muon Package Manager, which is, your cute version of Synaptic Package Manager, basically. In years past, Lubuntu really focused on being as light and as minimal as possible, and they really shipped with a suite of applications that were very light and minimal. That doesn't seem to be as much the case these days. They are shipping with much of the software that you expect to be on the system. For example, the Office suite is the LibreOffice suite. In years past, older versions of Lubuntu, I remember, shipped with things like AbiWord and GNU Merrick, and I really doubt most people use those particular Office programs. Most users probably went ahead and installed LibreOffice anyway, so I'm glad that Lubuntu is just installing the apps that most people use these days. Under Internet, you have, of course, Firefox. Your email client, though, is still Trojita. I think most users, if they're going to use a desktop email client, would probably just prefer you to go ahead and install Mozilla's Thunderbird as well. And if I go to the menu system and click on About LXQt, you will see some information about the LXQt project. You get the authors, a thank you, translation information, and technical information that would be useful, especially for those of you that may want to help out with the LXQt project. I right-click on the desktop and go to Desktop Preferences, and let's browse the wallpapers. And the wallpapers on Lubuntu are going to be in User, Share, Lubuntu with a lowercase l, Wallpapers, and then we could just click on one and hit Apply and check it out, such as that bridge there. Not a bad picture. Of course, most of what they have, they actually don't have very many wallpapers to choose from. Most of it is just abstract art with a Lubuntu logo or the LXQt logo. I really like that one in the clouds with the little bird superimposed over it. That actually is kind of a cool wallpaper. Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to this one. I kind of like this one with the blue and purple shades with the white bird in the center. Configuring LXQt, the panel, is very similar to the XFCE panel. You just right-click on it, and you could add a new panel if you wanted a second panel, or you could just manage the widgets here, which would add the various widgets, or subtract the various widgets from the panel, depending on what you want to do. Speaking of Ubuntu flavors that really focus on polish, Ubuntu Budgie 20.04 is just drop dead gorgeous. Love the wallpaper, love the widget here, the time and date widget. I have the plank dock here at the bottom, and of course your traditional panel here at the top. The panel, you have a menu system. It looks like they're using this almost Pantheon styled slingshot menu here, it looks like, by default. In the center of the screen we have our calendar and time and date settings, and then you have various widgets off to the right. This here is your workspace switcher where you can switch between, it looks like, two workspaces by default. I'm sure you could adjust this to however many workspaces you think you need. We have our quick note application, and this here is our places application. So this is bookmarks basically within the file system. So if I clicked on that, it opens my DT home directory basically inside the file manager. And I can click this to get a list view in the file manager. We also have a notification widget here in the sys tray. We have our volume widget, our network manager, and then of course the session settings where you could lock the screen, suspend, hibernate, restart, or shut down. And then the very far right icon here opens that side Raven menu here in Budgie, and this is where all of your notifications and calendar stuff would be, as well as some information as far as audio tracks that are currently playing. Of course, we're not playing anything right now. One thing to note with the Ubuntu Budgie installer, ZFS was an option during the graphical installer. If I go to the menu system here and I go to the Budgie Welcome, and this is your typical kind of greeter utility, and it asks you to please choose a topic to get started. I'm going to go down here to updates and extras, and here we could go ahead and check for updates. We could run the software update tool. We could install any kind of restricted extra packages. If you didn't choose third-party drivers and codecs during the graphical installer, you would probably want to run some of that stuff. I go to customization here. We could click on Budgie desktop settings, and here we could tweak our themes. We could add, remove widgets. And if you click on optional task in the Budgie welcome, you get the option of installing tools for a backup. It looks like it's going to install Deja Dupe if you want a backup utility, or whether you want to install the firewall, it's going to install UFW and GFW for a graphical front end. UFW is the uncomplicated firewall. It's the default firewall utility in Ubuntu. And if I go back to the menu system and I go to Budgie Themes and Layouts. Now, Ubuntu Budgie now has like a layout switcher utility, very similar to how Ubuntu Monta has a theme switcher utility, and we're going to take a look at that in just a second. The default theme, I believe, is this one right here, Pasillo, and you see you got the transparent bar at the top. But say I wanted to install a different theme, maybe this one here. I could just click Apply Makeover. And give it a second and it changes the GTK theme, and now the menu system, slightly different theme. The bar is now dark rather than being mostly transparent. Is there anything else I could apply? I could apply this one here, Arc Design. It's a dark theme. I typically like dark themes. And now, yes, we have a dark menu and a dark panel. Doesn't look like there's any transparency at all to the panel. Yeah, I kind of like that though. I'm going to right click on the desktop and choose Change Desktop Background. And it looks like, yeah, just a standard wallpaper pack, although there are some good photographs here to choose from if I wanted to check some of these out. Yeah, that's not bad. That's a good light wallpaper to contrast the dark theme. And the next flavor to take a look at is, of course, Ubuntu Monta. Ubuntu Monta is probably the most popular flavor of Ubuntu that's not mainline Ubuntu. At least it's the one that seems to get the most good press in the last few years. The installer for Ubuntu Monta is very similar to the standard Ubuntu installer. ZFS was offered as an option for your file system during the graphical installer. Some of the improvements that are touted in this release of Ubuntu Monta include better high DPI support. Also, I think in this new version of Ubuntu Monta, they have removed Compiz, the window manager Compiz, from the system, probably due to Marco, their actual built-in window manager, being a more mature project now. It's probably much more ready for prime time, where Compiz has kind of fallen out of favor, really, in the last few years. Of course, you have a very traditional GNOME 2 style desktop here with Monta, where you have the panel at the top and a panel at the bottom. And the panel at the top, you have your menu system that you could navigate through. You have a quick launcher here, which only has one icon in it at the moment. It has Firefox. I should open up Firefox since we haven't actually opened it in any of the other flavors we talked about. But Firefox should be the same in all 6 flavors of Ubuntu. Basically, the software on these 6 flavors are very similar, as far as all of them are going to be running the kernel 5.4. All of them shipped, I believe, with Firefox. I think all of them shipped with the LibreOffice suite. If I go to About Firefox, you will see this is version 75.0. If I go to the menu system here and go to the control panel here inside Monta, you will see we have Software Boutique. This is the Monta Software Center here. And it is a really interesting software center. Graphically, it just is gorgeous. You have these icons here, of the various categories of software you could search for. For example, I could click games here, and it would list the games that I could install here from the software boutique. Of course, you could do a search if you know exactly what you're searching for. Also in the control center, one thing you definitely want to take a look at is the Monta tweak tool. And this tool here, you can turn on and off various desktop icons. For example, if I wanted a trash icon on the desktop or a network icon, I could put all of that, or I could just turn all desktop icons off, which is typically what I do. I don't like my desktop cluttered with icons. I think it looks a little tacky. You can click on Panel here in the Monta tweak tool, and you can select the style of desktop, such as Familiar, which is the traditional GNOME 2 look. Let's try Cupertino. This one should be like a traditional Mac layout, so you have your dock at the bottom, and of course a panel at the top. Is it an actual global menu included? Let me open up something and see if we have a global menu. Yes, we have a global menu, very Mac-like. Probably one of the more popular layouts here is the Mutiny layout, which tries to mimic Unity. Of course, now we have a panel at the top, probably still with a global menu system if we needed it, and we have this here, which launches us into like a full screen, almost like a Unity launcher situation here. That is very cool. Let me open up our Pluma text editor here, and we don't get a global menu, unfortunately, here in this layout, but that's still cool nonetheless. I'm going to go back to the familiar layout here. If I go back into the control center and I click on Appearance, we have a number of options as far as the GTK theme. I really like Black Monta. I like dark themes. Dark themes and light wallpapers work fine for me if I go into the backgrounds. Let's see if I can find a nice light wallpaper that contrasts nicely with our dark theme. You know what? That's not bad there. Well, I like this one right here of the water. We could also play with our fonts if I wanted to, and we could play a little bit with the interface, such as show icons and menus, show icons on buttons. I'm going to close all that out. So that was just a very quick look at 6 flavors of Ubuntu 20.04 Focal Fossa. We took a look at Mainline Ubuntu, Kubuntu, Xubuntu, Lubuntu, Ubuntu Budgie, and Ubuntu Monta. Just playing around very briefly with these 6 flavors of Ubuntu inside VMs. I've got to say all 6 flavors are impressive. I think all 6 teams behind these distributions should be proud of the work they have done. All 6 releases look drop dead gorgeous. They're very polished, very professional looking, and the performance, at least in the VMs that I tried, was quite impressive for all 6 distributions. So I'll end on this note. I do want to congratulate the devs of all 6 of these distributions. Job well done, guys. And before I go, I need to thank these people right here. These are the producers of the show, and I'm talking about Michael, Mitchell, Gabe, Chris, Chuck, DJ Donnie, Dylan, George, Haplo, Nate, LibreQuest, Omri, Rob, Sean, and Willie. These guys, they're my highest tiered patrons over on Patreon. Without these guys, this preview of these 6 flavors of Focal Fossa wouldn't have been possible. I also need to thank each and every one of these ladies and gentlemen, all these names you're seeing on the screen right now. These are all my supporters over on Patreon because this channel is supported by you guys, the community. There are no corporate sponsors here on DistroTube. If you'd like to support the channel, consider doing so. You'll find DistroTube over on Patreon. All right, guys. Peace.